adjourn.
Ready?
This is
Okay.
who's who of key staff.
Let's go ahead then and call the Johnston City Council meeting to order. Council meeting number 24-02 to order. Sam, roll call, please.
Martin,
Here.
Burkhart,
Here.
Cope,
Here.
Reddy,
Here.
Evans.
Here.
The next item on the agenda is the welcome. I welcome everyone that is in the audience this evening. If you're here for an item that is on the agenda, we would ask you to wait for that item to come up. If you're here for an item that is not on the agenda, there will be an opportunity under public communications to address the council. The next item on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. And Teresa, have you, whoops, is she gone?
Yep.
I was gonna try and get her before she left. Sarah, do you want to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Next time, Teresa.
Yeah.
The next item on the agenda is the agenda approval. Mike, are there any changes to the agenda?
None, Mayor and Council.
Council, any changes? Seeing none, do we have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion. Sam, vote please.
Burkhart,
Yes.
Cope,
Yes.
Reddy,
Yes.
Evans,
Yes.
Martin.
Yes.
Motion passed. Next item on the agenda is public communications. We have one scheduled public communication this evening, and that is a presentation on the Icon Water Trails.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Dr. Stephanie Oppel, and I am so glad to be here. I serve as the Executive Director of Icon Water Trails.
Hi.
We know each other from DMAC. So I'm just so pleased to be here and get to talk a little bit about Icon Water Trails, and thank you all for your participation and everything that you do to support Icon Water Trails and to make the amenities that are here in Johnston so accessible and wonderful for our whole central Iowa community to enjoy. If you have any questions for me, I'm also happy to entertain those. So I started with Icon at the end of September. I come from about 12 years in higher education. Prior to that, I worked for FEMA in emergency management, so a varied background that I bring to the work. And educationally, I have a couple of degrees from Drake and University of Nebraska and all those sorts of things. So I'm bringing all of this together to help advance the things that we are doing with Icon. So as a refresher, over 150 miles of water trails, more than 50 sites, 85 plus improvements across those sites to develop this robust network of outdoor recreation opportunities. So all things, you know, we're talking a lot about kayaking and tubing and canoeing, but also bird watching and hiking and getting kids out to stomp and splash and look for frogs and do all of those great things. So outdoor recreation is really the driver of what we're doing. But behind that, there are so many other layers of Icon, as you probably are aware. But just to bring those again to the forefront of your mind, economic development is a huge component of what we are doing with Icon Water Trails. And I will plug this for you a little bit. We'll be sending an invitation to you all. But on February 28th at 11 a.m., we're going to do an unveiling of a recent regional economic impact study that we have commissioned. I'm thrilled to be able to talk about the economic impact that our 15 active Icon sites are having. 2 of those being here in the city of Johnston, that are both amazing sites that I've been out to and have seen both as the executive director and before and as a citizen. One, I'll just share a couple of tidbits from that as a sneak preview. But with that economic development piece, one of the components that we wanted to look at was the total economic output of what these active sites are contributing to the central Iowa economy. One of the points, they used cell phone ping data and all the things that are like way beyond my modeling and all of those capacities, but really good folks working on this. I really like the data point that talks about visitors to the Icon Water Trails access points. If they are a local visitor, and that means they live within 10 miles of that site, they will spend around $27 associated with that visit in the community. If they are non-local to that site, meaning they're more than 10 miles away, reside more than 10 miles away, they will spend more than $85 associated with that visit. That's incredible economic impact, right? So when you take that and you think about the jobs that it's supporting, the money that's going into the economy and being able to flow and circulate, we think that's really, really valuable. We saw more than 250,000 visitors to our 15 active Icon sites between April and October of 2022 when we did this study. So just seeing the numbers of people that are out there doing that. So thinking about that economic piece. Behind that, we want to make sure that people are accessing the water safely. So we have a huge focus with our downtown Des Moines projects in mitigating some of the low head dams so that we can make those possible. If you haven't been downtown in a while, down by Mullet's and Single Speed Brewery, the Scott Avenue Bridge, that's one of our main projects for Icon that will be an economic driver and be able to contribute to what we're doing regionally as well. That has broken ground and they are making incredible progress and it's very fun to see. So that really makes things kind of come alive of the grand scale of some of the things that are happening that are impacting. So take a peek at that. But the safety of that, we are working on partnerships that we can develop to improve safety for everyone that's accessing the water. So working with the DNR to identify what can we do for paddling courses that are both in partnership with the DNR and Icon. How can we think about, I was just talking with USDA Rural Development about ways that we can think about access points, right? Because you know that the citizens in Johnston not only use your access points, but they're using access points all over. So how do we continue to keep everyone safe? Environmental conservation is also one of the underpinnings of everything that we are doing. So wanting to make sure that we are improving water quality with all of our activities. So you will see water quality initiatives or environmental conservation initiatives as part of every Icon project that we are striving to do that. We're doing a lot of that work also in partnership with the Great Outdoors Foundation. They've recently launched a conservation fund initiative that is going to have a direct impact on Icon, where they will be working with private landowners up in the Northeast and really throughout the state to be able to do some water quality improvement projects that will have downstream effects that will continue to support all of the recreational activity and ultimately drinking water as well. So all of those things are kind of underlying. And then the other piece of this too that goes with economic development is just, this is a quality of life initiative, right? You know in Johnston how important quality of life is. I will tell you, I haven't been up here at night in a while, so even coming in and seeing the lights and the things that you all are doing with placemaking, it's so impressive and so wonderful. And that's such a connected part of Icon. We want people to come visit and we want people to stay in central Iowa. And those that are here, we know that we have a great place to live. We want to continue to improve that. So it's a workforce development initiative as well, which we know is at the top of all of the lists that we have for trying to continue to improve our communities. So that's kind of the overview of where we are. We are so thrilled at the partnership that we have with Johnston. We're excited about the 2 sites that you have. We're really excited about the development of the future site. I was down there recently, really looking forward to seeing that come to life. And just want you to know that we are happy to support all the things that you are doing to the extent that we can, and be able to provide opportunities for us to collaborate and continue to work together. So I would entertain any questions that you have, but I would just thank you again for time to come and speak with you all and for everything that you're doing.
Council, have any questions for Stephanie? I guess you answered all their questions, Stephanie. I just want to thank you for being here tonight and giving us this update and introducing yourself.
Absolutely.
As the new ED. And I just want to express our appreciation for the support that we've gotten from Icon for the development of the sites that we have here. We too are really, really excited about that third location that is going to begin, when are we beginning construction on that, John?
We will,
This spring. So,
work with more water works.
okay. Okay. But it will be absolutely amazing. So we'll have to have some sort of an event planned for that once it's up and going as well. And hopefully next year we'll have a little more water in the, in the creek.
Yep, that's one of the things, right? We appreciate that when the water's low and it means we can move faster on construction and some of those other activities, but we want
We
that
need a
water
little
to
water so we can
come
be
up.
out there
Yeah.
paddling in it. You
Yep.
bet. So.
And I would say thank you to Cole Miller is our regional coordinator, and he has done a lot of work with you and with others in the city and has always just had really great connectivity. So thank you for that.
I will say that the deepest point in Beaver Creek in Johnston is at the access, into the access ramp from the ball field, the softball field. We waded up and down Beaver Creek in July, and it was probably calf deep until you get to that point where it goes over your head. And that's where you're trying to get out of the river, because we were doing a cleanup. But that is the deepest spot, unless there's another one.
Nope,
Yeah.
I was worried about you.
That's where the catfish are too.
Everyone take
Well,
care.
thank you,
and
thank you,
if you
Stephanie.
need anything, let me know. Thank you very much.
Get back out there, get in your car and get home.
That would be a long drive from Norwalk back up here.
Yeah.
We're still under public communications. Is there anyone else in the audience or online that would like to address the council on an item that is not on the agenda? Seeing none, we'll move on to public hearings. We have one public hearing this evening, and that is to consider approval of the first reading of ordinance number 1111, an ordinance amending section 165.03, sign definitions, and section 187.05, permanent ground signs of the Johnston zoning code, PZ case 23-25. We will open this public hearing at 7:16. Clayton.
Good evening. With the adoption of our new zoning code in May of 2023, we overhauled our entire sign code to become compliant with U.S. Supreme Court rulings about making our sign code content neutral. And as part of that adoption, one of the previous sign categories we had, which was previously called directional signs, was eliminated. And that directional signage was any sign which is not intended to advertise a product or place of business, but exists solely to direct vehicular or pedestrian traffic to a location of a business or part of a business. And it could include names or logos. That didn't satisfy the content neutral test, so we struck that. And since that time, we've at least on 3 occasions had requests for signs to be permitted, which would have previously fallen into that directional sign category. However, we found that we were unable to permit those because we eliminated that requirement. The sites where the existing
You
reason-
eliminated that category of sign.
Yeah, we eliminated directional signs, which was previously a standalone category.
You called it a requirement, but it really was a category.
Yeah, category, sorry. The sites that we've had to deny were Raising Cane's, the Christensen Shopping Center where Caribou Coffee's going just south of Poly Eyes, and Life Serve Blood Center where they wanted to have smaller monument signs to direct traffic. And the fact that we've now had it on 3 separate occasions, us as staff realized, hey, maybe there's a deficiency in our code that we need to look back on. So the proposal was to adopt a content neutral basis of a sign, which would effectively create 2 categories of monument signs. The first being what we are referring to as primary monument signs, and the new category, which would be secondary monument signs. We use the directional monument signage as a basis for the regulations on number, size, height, location of those signs. We just removed any references to content about it. So you could display whatever messaging you so wished, provided it doesn't exceed maximum 5 secondary monument signs per site, maximum 3 feet in height. It has to be constructed as a monument sign. I believe it's a 5-foot setback from all property lines. So in the proposal in front of you, any existing reference to monument sign was updated to reflect primary monument sign, because that's what that is intended to be. And then we had inserted new references to secondary monument signs under the regulations. In the residential districts, that would be allowed for any non-residential use in the RE, R1, R2, and R5 districts, and for all uses in the R3 and R5. And then in our non-residential, the secondary monument signs would be allowed for all uses in all non-residential zoning districts. This has been reviewed by the Planning and Zoning Commission. They have recommended approval. They did identify one Scrivener's error I had, where I had omitted a word prohibited under interstate oriented signs. That'd be section 3C7. It should be electronic message centers and manual changeable copy signs are prohibited. I omitted the word prohibited. That did not get corrected in the version in front of you tonight, but that intent would be that it would get corrected with future renditions of this ordinance. And that's not a change, that was just a Scrivener's error. I just wanted to make sure that was called out. With that, happy to answer questions or go into further detail as needed.
Any questions for Clayton?
Mayor, I do. Clayton, under the ordinance for describing 187.05, that permanent ground signs, 1G, if I recall and read correctly, secondary monument sign shall have no minimum separation requirement from any other sign. What prohibits someone then from being able to, in essence, tack, or what appears to be tack, multiple 8-square-foot signs together to make a larger sign, contrary to what we really intend?
As written, I don't know if there would be any prohibition to that, and that hadn't been considered.
If G were non-existent, what would our current ordinance require as far as a separation from other signs?
150-foot separation.
Was this intended so that a secondary monument sign doesn't need to be 150 feet away from a primary sign?
That was the intent, and if many of the times you'll have 2 signs at a driveway entrance, for example. The McDonald's, well, they'll have an entrance exit sign, one on either side of the driveway. That might only be a 26-foot separation, not 150. So that was the intent, was to try and capture that these signs may be located closer to one another and closer to other signs. The intent as drafted was not that they could be tacked together to create a larger display area. I see what you're saying, and I don't know if as written it would prohibit that. So if there is a concern about that, that is an item that we may consider refining.
I think at this point, I'm going to continue to chew on that before further readings, but I think we might want to consider a way that we could delineate that. I realize we have some other requirements within this, the 3 feet tall threshold overall of secondary monument, but I'm almost envisioning that you could almost have with 5 signs, you could piece them together so that you could make a pretty hefty kind of visual element, even if it's near the ground. And I don't think that's what we intended in this, or at least that's not what I'm intending in this change. So
I'd be happy to put some thought into some
Thank you.
recommended alternatives for second reading.
thanks.
Any other questions or comments, council? This is a public hearing on this item. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to address the council? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing then at 7:23. Do we have a motion to approve first reading of ordinance number 1111?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, Sam, vote please.
Pope,
Yes.
Ready,
Yes.
Evans,
Yes.
Martin,
Yes.
Burkhart.
Yes.
Motion passed. Moving on to the consent agenda. Do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion? Sam, vote please.
Ready,
Yes.
Evans,
Yes.
Martin,
Yes.
Burkhart,
Yes.
Cope.
Yes.
Motion passed. Moving on to the non-consent agenda. Do we have a motion to approve the claims in the amount of $2,898,128.67?
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion? Sam, vote please.
Evans,
Yes.
Martin,
Yes.
Burkhart,
Yes.
Cope,
Yes.
Ready.
Yes.
Motion passed. City administrator comments.
I just want to say, after being here for just over a year at the city, this is the first major winter storm that I've had to endure here in Johnston. I just want to say, really hats off to the staff, Public Works, Parks, Police, Fire. I seen police cars covered with snow because they're out there doing their work. Our guys were out there plowing early in the morning. In fact, one day I finished my driveway and here they came and I just waved and smiled.
And then you did it again.
I did it again. Actually, I'd preferred it that way because that would have been a heavy pile if it was twice as big. But they did a great job, and the entire crew, I was so pleased with what they did, and just want to give them hats off to each and every one. So thank you.
Any other staff comments? City council comments. Councilmember Evans.
I'll just agree with everything Mike said. And I learned how to slow down on a roundabout now. And I met some of Johnston's finest, and it was a great morning. No, they did do a great job, and I did reach out to Matt because I couldn't believe it. The difference between Des Moines, just on Beaver, Des Moines, Johnston, just crazy. So that's it.
I was going to say the same thing as what Mike said. You guys did a great job moving all the snow, and even in that extreme cold, I tried to put my garbage yesterday evening, 2 minutes from my doorway to the curb. My face froze. And you guys have been doing that in the cold, taking out all the snow and everything. It's really great job. Thank you for keeping the city moving. Appreciate you guys so much. Thank you.
Councilman Coe.
I'd second those comments as well, and especially now we have 2 teenage drivers in our house. It is, there's a good learning experience for them of learning to drive on snowpack roads, but your folks certainly make it easy. And how you get all that snow off the street and to the curb, I think is pretty amazing, because that has to be really hard, especially that second snowstorm was such light and fluffy. So anyway, really appreciate that. Second of all, Councilman Evans reminded us at a meeting a couple of meetings ago that Merle Hay is our front door for our city. And so the other day I was driving and got off on Merle Hay and really noticed our beautiful lights that we have on that the Johnston entryway there. And they look really, really stunningly beautiful. Kind of a yellow light. I think it looks really nice and really classy. So very, very cool on that. And then the last item, if folks are looking for something to do this Saturday, and I'm probably stealing Brian's poor thunder, but the Johnston Vocal Parents Association are hosting the Johnston Showzam, which is the show choir competition. And there's 3 choirs from all over Iowa and other states are competing. And then the 3 Johnston choirs also compete. The way show choir competitions works, if you're hosting it, you compete, but you don't really compete. You're just exhibiting. But the all-female choir is singing at 7:50. That's the Bella Voce choir. At 11:40 is the Synergy, our junior varsity show choir, which features a solo by a certain Harrison Burkhart, and no solo by any Copes, but they do some little dancing. And then 4 o'clock is the varsity show choir innovation for Johnston. If you, don't show up at 4 o'clock though, because the way it works is you really almost have to get in line about a half hour early because they only let you in between performances. And so you kind of line up in the hall and you think, oh my God, I'm never going to get in. But then the doors open and you get in. And I will say the innovation show is, all of these are amazing. The Synergy show, it's hard to believe when you watch them that they're a junior varsity because they're just outstanding. The innovation show though has a segment in which the choir goes silent and it's incredibly moving. So I would highly recommend if you have any time on Saturday to hit that. It'll be a fascinating show and great opportunity as always to see our young people performing at the finest. So anyway,
It's at the high school.
at the high school, yes.
Piggybacking on that train of thought, Friday night, you could also watch our 7th grade, 8th grade, and 9th grade choirs because Shazam is actually a 2-day affair. So let's not miss out on that as well and wish them all lots of luck this competition season. And part of that luck is just making sure they can get to a competition at some point too. With that being said, I echo the sentiments of everyone. Thank you so much to all the crews that have cleared snow and will continue to clear snow this season. I don't think we're done. I also do want to just take a moment to steal Councilmember Cope's thunder just a little bit. The legislative session is back underway. I would have liked to have believed he dressed up for all of us, but I know his day job probably requires it more than putting a good face on for us. The reality is that I hope that each of us can take some time throughout this legislative session to reach out to those that elect and serve in our community, but certainly around the state. And there is already legislation put forth that does impact an entity, an educational entity within our state as well, and within our community. And I certainly, all of us take note of the economic impacts as well as the educational impacts that AEA provides within our community. It helps our students and our residents, but also those throughout the country or throughout the state. And certainly we are defined in many ways by our strong schools. I also do just want to thank all of you. The fact is that yesterday we didn't hold our meeting because of Martin Luther King Jr. And each of us is called because of our convictions to serve in our communities in different ways. And I'm grateful for each one of you for answering that call and certainly doing your best. And it isn't just our elected officials, it's those of you who are also here because I know that many days and many nights are thankless when it comes to serving our community and our government. And I am so grateful, though, for all that you put in and have and will continue to do. And please share that with your staffs as well.
Councilmember Martin.
Yes, thank you, everyone, for the snow removal. I did try out roundabouts myself. I didn't have an accident. Sounds like you might have an accident. But I did go from the inside lane to the outside lane, and it wasn't on purpose. So,
I think, Jim, now you have to share.
yeah, you're gonna have to, maybe we're gonna have to get that money that we were all supposed to, we had to give up to, what's his name, and we'll get the story. The other thing I wanted to say is I sent you guys out a email today about talking about surveys. I want you to know that I totally understand surveys. It's a sometimes it's a benchmark about how we do, but I do think that there could be some ways to have a survey questions, maybe it's a different survey question, to get people thinking about more than, do I disagree, strongly disagree, neutral, strong, agree, get a little bit more background than having to say any other comments where people have to write, a paragraph of something. If they're like me, I got no time for surveys, and I really can't think of in the moment how I want to fill that out. But I do think that there's ways to ask questions that give them opportunities to give us a different kind of insight to what they feel should be our priorities going further. you know, so if you read that email, I don't know, maybe you didn't have a chance. It sounds like we'll have a chance later on to talk to Janet. But I'd appreciate your thoughts on some of those ways I put those questions in. So, thank you.
Just to add to what's already been, the comments that have already been made about the snow removal, I just want to share that Friday morning I was in here signing a couple of letters, and I did it at the front reception desk, and one of our residents was at the counter paying a utility bill, and she wanted to make sure that I was aware of her appreciation for the snow removal in this community. She said that she had been out on our streets and also on Des Moines streets, and she said, you know, that ours were so much better than what she experienced in Des Moines, and she just wanted to take a minute to just share that with me. The other thing that I will share is that a couple of days ago, I think it was on Sunday, I got a call from a woman in Kansas City. I almost didn't pick up the call because I didn't recognize the phone number, but I did in this case, and she identified herself, and her last name was Sparks. I don't remember what her first name was, but she identified herself as the daughter of Ruth Schuler. And Ruth Schuler was one of the mayors here in Johnston. She was actually the first female mayor here in Johnston back in the early 1980s. And she shared with me that her mother had just passed away a day or two before. She was putting together her obituary, and then she wanted to make sure that she was accurate in the information that she provided on her mother's service on the city council, as well as mayor here in Johnston. Of course, I couldn't confirm any of that. I couldn't provide that information to her. However, I knew someone who would be able to do that, and that is Mary Jane Paez. And so I made a call to Mary Jane, and I said, Mary Jane, I just got this call. You may have remembered Ruth Schuler, and of course, Mary Jane did. Was sad to hear that she had passed away. She was living in Florida. But Mary Jane was able to go out on the library website, pull off some archived newspaper articles, and got the information that she was looking for. So kudos to our library for having that information easily accessible for anyone to be able to go out there and get that information. And of course, kudos to Mary Jane for being our resident historian here in Johnston and available to help out in those situations. What was kind of interesting in talking to Ms. Sparks, again, I wish I could remember what her first name was.
Yeah.
She said that after she left Johnston some 25, 30 years ago, she moved to a community in Florida, and she did the same thing. She ran for the city council down there and eventually became one of their first mayors in that community after they had incorporated it. So we trained her so well that she decided to do that in another community. So anyway, just a little piece of Johnston's history to share with you.
Her first name's Kathy.
Kathy Sparks. See, and John and Jim remembers her well.
I went to school with her from kindergarten all the way through.
There you go. There you go. So anyway, a little history to share with you. Anything else to come before the council this evening? If not, we are adjourned. Go back out in the cold.